Welcome to Salem Witch Trials Daily. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
This is Sarah Jack. Today, May 1st, 1692, Rebecca Jacobs Specter allegedly attacked Elizabeth Hubbard. Rebecca was the wife of George Jacobs Jr.
A warrant will be issued for the apprehension of Rebecca's father-in-law, George Jacobs Sr., and her daughter, Margaret Jacobs, on May 10th.
Then, on May 14th, Nathaniel Ingersoll and Thomas Putnam complain about Rebecca Jacobs, George Jacobs Jr., and several other people, and the magistrates issue a warrant for the arrests of them all. But George Jacobs Jr. flees.
And last night was Walpurgis Night, which is widely observed across Germany, Scandinavia, and parts of Central Europe, where it is celebrated with bonfires, dancing, and spring festivals. Did you all see the social media filled with community observances, bonfire gatherings, and costume celebrations last night?
I sure did, and I enjoyed watching them. This celebration is observed on April 30th, the eve of May 1st. Walpurgis Night takes its name from Saint Walpurga, an English-born missionary who was canonized by the Catholic Church by Pope Adrian II on May 1st in approximately 870 AD. The night is not a single formal commemoration, but rather a layered folk tradition, blending the memory of her canonization with older pre-Christian May Eve practices across Northern Europe, including the Celtic Feast of Beltane.
Different countries and communities mark it differently. In Sweden, it is called Valborg and celebrated with student bonfires and choral singing. In Germany, communities light fires to drive away winter and evil spirits. And in Finland, it doubles as a carnival.
By the 16th and 17th centuries, two separate threads had converged on the same night. The first was the centuries-old Catholic tradition, because St. Walpurga's intercession was specifically believed to be effective against evil magic. The eve of her feast day had long been understood as the night when witches were most powerful and evil forces held their greatest sway.
The second was regional German folklore centered on the Brocken, the highest peak of the Harz Mountains, where witches were said to gather for a Sabbath, feast with the devil, and dance through the night. That gathering on the Brocken was first recorded in writing by Johannes Praetorius in his 1668 work, The Blocksberg Performance, and later immortalized in Goethe's Faust. By the time the tradition reached the 17th century, the saint and the Sabbath had become inseparable. One night, two histories.
And the Salem witch trial records show reporting of witches gathering on the Reverend's lawn leading up to May 1st.
Today is May Day. Thomas Morton was an English lawyer and colonist who arrived in New England in 1624, and after driving out his business partner, Captain Richard Wollaston, for selling indentured servants into Virginia tobacco slavery, horrible thing for Wollaston to do, Morton took control of Wollaston's settlement, Mount Wollaston, and renamed it Merrymount, a triple pun on the Latin word for sea, mare, the English May Day tradition of merriment, and the classical idea of a mount as a place of civilization. He was a fun guy.
He opened direct trade with Native Americans, and according to his own account in New English Canaan, by 1626, his men had nearly put Plymouth out of business in the fur trade. Plymouth had no legal jurisdiction over him, so what happened next was not law enforcement, it was a power play.
In 1627 and 1628, Morton erected a Maypole and invited both English settlers and Native Americans to dance and celebrate in the manner of traditional English May Day, an act of open defiance that cut straight across Puritan authority.
Plymouth Colony Governor William Bradford responded in writing comparing the revelers to fairies, and we just read this in scholar Francis Young's new book, Fairies: A History. Bradford wrote, "Dancing and frisking together like so many fairies or furies." Bradford's choice of the word fairies was a deliberate theological accusation. In Puritan thinking, fairies, May Day, and paganism were part of the same condemned category, placing Morton's celebration outside Christian society and really the name of the colony. They were therefore subject to punishment in their minds. So the Maypole was Morton's assertion of freedom. Bradford's fairy comparison was Plymouth's assertion of control.
The man who would later destroy that maypole was already putting down roots on the very land where Salem's witch trials would begin.
John Endicott was the first resident governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony and had by 1632 established his farm on the land that would become Salem Village, the ground where the 1692 witch trials began.
That land is still there. It's not a farm. The pear tree Endicott planted on it is still producing fruit in a parking lot in Danvers, just a short walk from where Rebecca Nurse was arrested.
We invite you to go deeper with us on Walpurgis, the New England Maypole, and that pear tree with us tomorrow on the Thing About the Salem Witch Trials podcast.